Welcome back to End All the Things. Today is absolutely as much for you as it is for me. This conversation is about helping me understand my own wellness and satisfy my itch to explore the curiosity I have towards being a vegetarian, plant-based, flexitarian, vegan. We talk about it all. This conversation is with my old and dear friend, Ella Majors. We went to school together at the University of North Carolina at Wilmington, which I neglect to properly elaborate on in the show. But what you will hear in this conversation is a wide-ranging approach to wellness. We talk about emotional wellness, physical wellness, your mental health. We talk about everything because Ella is, just like I am, a curious and compassionate coach. But these are two things that she leads with. She leads with a desire to bring a better space, a better world to all of us and all of the animals with whom we share. So listen into this conversation. You will hear about a really dynamic experience through self-discovery in a physical and emotional way, using really interesting medicines. You will hear tips and tricks, and you will hear two friends reconnecting about a foundation that has helped us both get to the places we are today. So without further ado, I offer you Ella Majors and All the Things. Thanks so much for joining today. Hello, friends. I have for you today, and for me, a very special guest. We did not plan on twinning today. Alas, here we are, wearing the same color shirt, cut in the same style. What you'll find about me and Ella is that we share a history that goes back to social work school at the University of North Carolina. So for me, this is a flash into the past and a glimpse into a future with some of her great nuggets of wisdom. So, Ella, would you give us a brief intro of who you are and what you're here to talk about today, or who you want to talk about today?
Yeah, no, because it really is about inventing ourselves, right? And so who do
Constantly.
I who do I want to be today? Let's think about that. No. Yes, so I guess when I think about who I am, it comes to kind of my life's work
Mhm.
and what I truly care about and value in this world. And something I discovered when I was very young was my love and compassion for animals.
Mhm.
So my life's work really has revolved around what can I do to help in the suffering of animals.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, so that tees me up perfectly. Ella, you have a podcast called Rise and Thrive with Ella Majors. It is a animal or plant-based diet, wellness, holistic, all the things combined together. But one of the things I love about it, and I've become a very active and avid listener, so tune in, folks, it's fantastic. Um, but you ask rapid fire questions and I love it. And I told you I might flip the table on you. So we're going to do a couple of quick rapid fire questions that I think will help us bridge into a couple conversations as we go through. All right. So are you ready?
Yes, I totally forgot you were going to do this. So good.
Yes.
Let's
I
do it.
love a good surprise.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. Question number one. What is your favorite animal type on the planet?
My favorite animal type.
Like not your favorite animal from childhood or
Oh,
like your favorite animal.
oh, that's a really tough one.
There's
Ah,
so many beautiful, wonderful creatures.
there are. I'm gonna have to say birds in general.
Why?
Well, one of the things that I've really loved to do in the past is hang glide.
Mhm.
And the experience of hang gliding alongside a bird, I just don't think I've matched that. And I've had a lot of experiences, but to be up there flying and feeling so connected to their experience and their perspective,
Yep,
there's something very freeing about that.
I love that. Thank you. Um, one of the questions I wanted to ask would have been, what would be your superpower? And if I had to answer it, it would be flying. I want to be able to fly. I want to be able to fly or sing. Those are my two
Hmm.
things that I want to be able to do. Okay. The greatest place you have ever traveled.
Ooh. I'm gonna say Peru.
Mhm. And by Peru, where did you go?
I went into the Amazon jungle outside of the small town of Iquitos.
Mhm.
And so being immersed completely away from all technology and
Right.
social media and being so connected.
Mhm.
It's a tie. I mean, it's a tie between that and when I hiked the 14,000-foot mountains in Colorado and being at the
Ooh.
very top of that mountain on this rock boulder at the very top and looking out on the world, that was
Mm.
insanely incredible. But being that connected with the Amazon and being around shaman and indigenous people who could really show me
Mhm.
their connection with nature and tell me things about the plants, every plant we walk by. I mean, that was so fascinating and
Right.
so amazing.
Was that at the Temple of Light when you were
The
there?
Temple of the Way of Light,
Mhm.
yes.
Temple of the Way of Light. Okay.
Yes.
And I'll probably want to come back to that later because I have a billion questions. We
Mm-hmm.
might have to have a whole session on that.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite milk alternative?
Actually, well, at the moment, and it changes depending on what I'm making. At the moment, I'm in a phase of drinking mushroom coffee in the morning. And
Oh,
in
yum.
that mushroom coffee, I am using soy milk.
Hmm. Nice. So you kind of alternate based on whatever season you're in or whatever thing
Well,
you're
I'm
doing.
constantly on this path of what works best for me and my body.
Mhm.
And I was using oat milk because it's so creamy and so delicious.
Yep.
And
That's what we have.
but I don't think my body felt as good drinking the oat milk, as delicious as it does drinking the just plain old unsweetened soy milk with minimal ingredients.
Right.
So yeah, but they're both very creamy, and then you've got the benefit of the extra plant protein in the soy milk, and so yeah, I'm gonna say soy milk, but also use flax milk
Okay.
when I'm eating like maybe that's also a great, very light milk
Mhm.
that's very, very healthy. So yeah, I alternate. I use them pretty much. I use them all.
And I
They're
think
all
that's
great.
important because, like, number one, we don't stop and check in and say, did the thing I just ate, experienced, make me feel better or make me feel worse or make me feel nothing, right?
Mhm.
And if the milk isn't jiving, then switch it up. But I think we get into this idea with this newer, especially with all the marketing way of eating and drinking, that we have to be oat milk people or we have to be almond milk people or
Right.
whatever the case may be. So I appreciate that little bit of diversity and stretch there. Okay. Of all of them, what is your favorite boundary?
Ooh. I think for me, and I experienced this morning, I had to choose whether to go into my hot yoga class or to get a quick something in on my own
Mhm.
because I had a very busy day coming up.
Right.
And for me, it was this choice that I decided to go in. I decided to take the extra time to drive
Right.
to be in community, since I don't have a whole, I don't go out and party anymore. I don't go to the
Right.
bars very
Right.
often. That's my community. And to take that extra time was really important. So for me, the boundary of taking care of myself physically, especially on the level of movement, is really important and something that I will make a priority. So that's a boundary I set.
And that's fantastic, especially for someone who is very fit and healthy, to make sure that that's not the corner you're cutting off, right? Like, we can't cut the corner on the connection, on the physical connection, on the movement. Um, and I think that boundaries, we have to be hard and fast with them. There might be some days where you choose otherwise,
Mhm.
right? But
Yeah.
I think the boundary that you're saying is choosing, not just responding, not just, I can't deal with this, I'm not going to go to yoga, or I have to go to yoga, there's no other way, but choosing to help you get the desired result in that moment that you need. I
I
love
think, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's really about making a conscious and intentional
that.
choice, not just with exercise, but with what we put in our bodies and food and what we choose to do with our time otherwise. Like
What we
there's so
think, what
what
we
we
tell
think, what
ourselves.
are exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
So important, that power of choice.
I love it. Okay, so here's one, and this is kind of a loaded question because it's something we're going to talk about. How do you, Ella, define sexy?
Ah, yes, this is a good question. This is a
We're
great
getting into
question.
it.
Yes.
Define
Yeah.
sexy, Ella.
Yeah. For
Because for
me,
those of you who are just listening, I will give you the benefit here. She's beautiful, gorgeous, always has been, equally inside and out. But she is a very, very fit, strong, um, obviously healthy, vibrant person. But I would like you to talk about sexy.
yeah, for me, how I see it is really having the confidence to stand in your truth.
Hmm. Say that
To
again. Will you say that again? We have to hear that again.
having the confidence to stand in your truth.
Hmm. I love that. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, we hear the word authenticity thrown around a lot, right? But it's an important word. It's integrity. It's about integrity. It's about aligning our actions with what we truly care about. And that can be hard to figure out sometimes. I mean, really being connected to our values and saying, okay, are these the values that I inherited? Or are these actually my true values? And
Yep.
those can change as we start to discover our blind spots and we create, a new way of being and moving through the world. We can start to open up and see that maybe we were, what we thought were our own were programs.
Right.
So to be able to move through the world with this openness, with this curiosity and with compassion, for me, that's the foundation for what it means to be sexy. It's to be alive. It's
Right.
to be in line with your true nature. That's sexy.
And I think it's so important to differentiate that because yes, we see the images that the world and big marketing and all the things tell us are hot, sexy, beautiful, appealing, attractive. And if we don't fit that, then what? Then there's no hope, there's no opportunity. But when we really think about the things we find most attractive, most appealing, it's people in their bodies feeling whole and standing up straight and speaking with confidence and moving forward unapologetically with compassion, right? And so I'm asking this question to close our rapid fire because one of the places where I first started seeing you back in my space, not in my space, but on LinkedIn, was your promotion of your brand, Sexy Fit Vegan. Now, me, I stand up and go, yeah, girl, you go get that. But as I understand, you received quite a bit of backlash about that choice to use the word sexy to market, quote, yourself, which is really the brand, the concept, the vision that you offer to your community. But what was that experience, and how did that challenge your perception of the definition?
Yeah, well, so I actually founded my brand in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea behind it wasn't so much of Ella is the sexy fit vegan
Mm-hmm.
as being vegan is sexy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was but it kind of turned into, okay, well, I'm the face of it, so you attribute it to me. I really didn't get a lot of backlash at first. It was more like, yeah, at first, for the first many years, it was very well received. I got a lot of attention, very positive attention. I mean, some of it was not for people that were not open to veganism, but it really wasn't around the word sexy. It was really, and I'm trying to think exactly what year. The years just fly by. But I think it was around the first of the Me Too movement. And I started getting some comments on social media that said, why does it have to be about being sexy? And there was some like animosity toward what that meant. So I had to take a step back.
And was that because people felt saying I'm sexy was counterintuitive to the hashtag Me Too movement? How do you respond to that? Because we can sit here today with today's information and go, yes, it is, or yes, no, it isn't, right? But in that moment, it's like, what do you think? What do you do? How do you respond?
Yeah, well, I knew I needed to write about it. I'm very good with my words, especially in writing. And so I did. I was grateful in a sense of, let me take a step back and let me examine this for myself, because maybe there's a little piece of this that I'm uncomfortable with because it hasn't been really defined.
Right.
So I tend to do that. I tend to, instead of getting defensive and lashing out at the person, I approach it with curiosity and say, well, what does this say about me? What can I learn about myself? And how can I use this to do more good in the world? And I think part of that was saying, okay, well, yeah, let me see where is this coming from? And I think there is that sense of, okay, if we look at society and what they say is sexy and how that does not serve women in particular.
It's counterintuitive to the definition you gave of being
Right,
whole, being in your
exactly.
truth, being healthy, right? So did you keep the name? Did you change the name? How did you handle it?
I did. I doubled down on the name. I just said, let me define this and let me use this as an opportunity to not only promote veganism, but to promote sexiness in a new way, to empower women to be proud of their sexuality at any age, and to say, okay, well, I can be sexy at 30, I can be sexy at 40, I can be sexy at 70 years old. This isn't about an age. This isn't about a number. It isn't about what society tells us. It's about how we define it and how we step into our own power.
In that moment, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and it could change over time. And I think I shared with you right after having our son, he was a couple weeks old, maybe 2 months old. I went out with some girlfriends in my new body, and I started getting dressed and just kind of like shrouding myself. And where, I wasn't thrilled about how I felt, but I came out kind of covered. And my husband, bless his heart, he said, honey, it's okay to be a sexy mom. It's okay to feel sexy right now. It's okay. And I was like shaken, right? Because I'm like, I don't know how to do this. But it was such a great reminder in that moment to, how do I want to feel? Like, this body just made a human. I mean, what's more powerful than that? And yet here I was making myself small, right? Because I didn't fit what I thought the world would accept as sexy, right? And let's be real, I wasn't feeling 100% confident and full of my truth. But it was an interesting moment, and I reflect on that through this Me Too conversation, right? It's yes and. Yes, if you were promoting to starvation and poor lifestyle and all the things to, quote, be sexy, that would be a problem, right? Because that's not in anyone's best interest. But what are you promoting through the work that you do today, from then to today, to invite people to a healthier, more balanced, holistic lifestyle?
Yeah, for me and what I do, it's all about empowerment. And again, another word that's thrown around a lot, but it's about the power of choice. It's about understanding that we've all been programmed, that 95% of our lives, we are acting out what's a part of our subconscious programming, not through our conscious mind and conscious choice.
Amen.
So knowing that and understanding that is the first step, right? That's so important. And then creating a way of being that's in line with opening ourselves up to being more conscious more of the time, and to learn how to take the pause we need to become the observer of our thoughts, of our emotions, of our actions, with curiosity, with compassion for ourselves and the world around us, and then being able to make conscious choices that are in line with what we care about.
I love it. I just want to pause on that. I love it because when I speak with other coaches, right? And yes, we have a shared social work background, if you will, but the language remains the same. And it's so important that we just keep saying it. Take the pause. Between stimulus and response, we have a choice. And if we take that pause, that moment, we can positively affect the results. We can't always make it foolproof or without complexity, but we can choose the path of least resistance, which is the path of most acceptance, right? And then we just move forward. But we cannot do that if we're tied into it, if we are the participant and not the observer. And I agree with you that empowerment can be a little diluted sometimes, as many words today can, but that taking the time for the choice to hold the power of your outcome in that choice is all I want to do for people. That is it. That's all I want to give to the world. So we'll flash back real quick. Do you remember Dr. Bob Lundo?
I do. So he was the best.
He was the best.
So good.
Like y'all, he had the kind of beard and like the little hippie style, and but he was one of the most impactful professors that I had. One of the things that he taught us going into social work was, of the entire toolbox that you will build, you are your greatest tool, right? Sharpen yourself, keep yourself front and center, keep yourself safe. What do you think that tool is that you bring to the world? What is your special, unique gift that you today use as a tool to help others to grow, to change, and to serve?
Well, I keep saying these two words, but I think they're, instrumental in how I work with people, because the first mantra for most of the people that I work with is I approach myself with curiosity and compassion. Most of the people that I work with or have worked with do a lot of beating themselves up. They do a lot of self-sabotaging. And we don't do that with people that we love. Right. And these are people that are so compassionate to everyone else. A lot of them are already vegan. They're compassionate to animals. They're, they've got all that. But when it comes to themselves, for some reason, they're the last person.
It's so bizarre, and it's the simplest thing to know, but it's the thing that we so often overlook. And I work, you'll love this. I work with a woman now who we started working together because she had some just fitness accountability goals. She 65, going to Peru to climb, Machu Picchu, right? Like, she's going for it. And I'm like, okay, yes, we can do this. Of course, in my mind, I know that we're moving it towards personal empowerment, towards accountability within the self, towards confidence. But she has been doing an accountability call for years with a friend of hers every day. And every day her mantra was kindness and patience. But she was pushing it all outward. It was all going elsewhere. So in the last year and a half, she's now turned it back in. She's giving equal kindness and patience out, but she's giving it to herself. And it is amazing to watch someone in that part of their life say, screw it. I'm going to get what I want. I'm going to ask for what I want. I'm going to be me and kind and generous about it, but I'm going to protect myself. And I think what I think you and I want to do in the world is not wait till we're 65 to get to that point, right? And I mean, listen, she's leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of other people, but I want to help people get through that, to have that curiosity for life, to have that self-compassion, because life is bumpy, right? And it's not always easy. So in that kind of work, what is the thing that drives you? Where do you find your greatest joy? What does it look like?
Yeah, so I have to balance this out, because it's my whole life's been a journey on how am I going to get my message out there, right? And how am I going to use my strengths and my tools and my passion?
Yeah.
Where am I best served? And when I was a teenager, I went into direct action. So I was handing out leaflets and pamphlets and sitting in cages, and went that route to share what I know about animal suffering. And then I went into the fitness industry after college, even though I got my social work bachelor's degree, went into the fitness industry, and then started, using my ability to have a really strong, lean physique as an opening for people to say, well, I want some help. How can I do that? Well, let me show you how to have this healthy, fit lifestyle. Now, that said, it really I went back and got my master's degree in social work, because I knew the missing piece for helping people achieve sustainable changes was the mindset piece. Right. So I went back and got my master's degree in social work, thinking maybe I would become a licensed therapist. I wasn't sure. But afterwards, I went the coaching route, developed my coaching program, my brand, and everything, and went that route. So for me, it's I'm still kind of trying to figure that out, to be honest. I love podcasting because I love being curious, and
you're really damn good at it.
Thank you. Yeah, it just is about really listening and the extraordinary humans that I'm able to connect with in that way, and be able to share their stories. That's the direction I'm going now, is being this person who helps others share their stories, and having conversations.
And that's the thing, right? The more we talk about it, the more we get into it, the more people can take nuggets and ideas and choose if it fits them, how it could fit them. And it's one of the real one of the real reasons I started this podcast was to broaden the light and invite people in so that they can have a moment with my audience to say whatever wonderful things they have to say, to dig into who they are and how they tick. But I also did it because I wanted, in our world where privilege and accessibility are not always aligned, right? I wanted to give something away. I want to give all of this away. I want to give every piece of opportunity and hope and inspiration to anyone that wants to listen. So having these conversations with people like you gives insights that are attainable to everyone. So with that thought in mind, I think I also shared with you, my husband had a diagnosis with MS a year and a half ago. And it was a real call to action to think about how to live more holistically, right? And reduce the physical, emotional, all the different stresses of the world. And it's been wonderful to be transitioning towards a more vegetarian lifestyle. We are not nearly close to vegan, but we're happy to make steps. So I listened to you. You've been vegan since 15, right?
Correct. Yes.
Very committedly. Number one, kudos to you, because that's not always been easy in the world we live in with access to food and different options. But what do you say to someone like me who's a little bit vegan curious or vegetarian curious? How do you tactically make the move in that direction?
Yeah. So, well, first, I want to mention that for me, it has been really easy. And that's, yeah. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Sorry for the assumption.
Yeah, no. It's, I'm sure the older we get and the longer we've been eating one certain way,
Right.
it's harder to change your habits, right? So I turned vegetarian when I was 7 and made the connection of that's an actual animal on my plate. And I love animals. And how in the world could I eat one? I won't. So I stopped eating animals. And then I understood the industries and the cruelty involved in all the dairy ag industries as well, and how it's all connected. And so went vegan at 15. So because it came from such a strong place of, just like most people wouldn't eat, most Americans, if they sat down and there was a table full of dog meat and then a few sides, the choice is very easy, right?
Right.
I'm going to choose the sides. There is no temptation whatsoever. So for me,
that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah. So that's just to help people kind of put themselves in my shoes. And somebody asked me this the other night, and I was so impressed. I was out to dinner with somebody that I didn't know very well, and 2 friends, and he said, "Well, is it hard for you to be at the table with other people eating meat?" And I said, "Wow, thank you for asking that question." Right. It's a really thoughtful thing to say and to be curious about that. And so I tried to make a comparison. Like, if you were surrounded, do you love dogs? Yes, I love dogs. Would you eat a dog? Absolutely not. Well, imagine living in a society where that was the norm. Everyone ate dogs. So it's just the same thing. So first of all,
that's really interesting as I look over at my dog.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So amazing that you are vegetarian curious or plant curious or whatever. I'm sure you eat a lot of plants as it is.
Is there a difference between like a plant-based diet and a vegetarian diet?
Yeah, so plant-based is one of those very gentle words, because you can be, and people say I'm plant-based because they eat a base of plants and then sprinkle in some meat here and there, some dairy, whatever. Okay. So yeah, it's a very, they also can call it flexitarian. There's some different ways. Vegetarian is, no meat. And then vegan is doing your very best to avoid all animal products and byproducts. Okay. So awesome that you're just in a headspace of I'm interested. Like, that's fabulous.
Well, I'm interested in living a life in this body for a long time with a smile on my face, right? So over the last few years, especially in this last year and a half, it's exercise, alcohol, sleep, all of those things that, everything in moderation, right? But I wasn't maintaining a healthy relationship with all of them. So I know that as I continue to feel better and stronger and more clear and more capable, whatever I can take in, I'm interested. I'm curious about it. Certainly no commitment, but the more I know, and when we think about it, what is it, like 6,000 acres of the Amazon per day is being cut down. And if we continue in this trajectory, it's gone in what, 30 years, 40 years. And I think about that. And then I think about the plate of hamburger, you know, and it's, I really don't want the hamburger. I want the trees. But it's also, you know, this horizontal and vertical axis, like I have to kind of find the point where it all meets and make it adjust into my lifestyle. So what are some tips and tricks? Like what are good places, or is there good brands that are accessible to people that might be good substitutes, or are substitutes not great? What are like 2 tips?
Yeah. So, well, you know what? I will have to just insert the opportunity right here
Do
for
it.
people to try out the 22 reboot
Oh, good.
program, because it's a
Perfect.
22-day challenge. I give you all these tools that you're talking about. And it's not just about diet, it's 4 pillars of health. So this is really helping people prioritize. And though it's marketed to, and I really designed it specifically for entrepreneurs and mission-driven leaders and professionals, though it will work for anybody who's interested, who's wanting to disrupt their harmful habits and adopt healthy new ones. So it's based on the pillars of movement, mindfulness, sleep, and of course, nutrition. And I give you tons of tools along the way, and it's 22 days and little mindset shifts, because really it's more about mindset than anything. And what I like to do is meet people where they are. So you just told me, just like in social work, right? Like we learn to meet people where they are. So what is your why? And that why might be expanded down the line as you start to see some great results, feel better, feel lighter, feel energized, feel clearer minded, you know, as you start to get there. So what I recommend for people is to start just looking at your plate and start, what can you add to it that will then start to push off the sides, things that you're looking to maybe lessen, right? So the meat and the dairy and the eggs, things that contain dietary cholesterol, the things that cause our #1 killer, heart disease, which is really from animal products, right? So if we're looking at longevity.
Is that right? Like it's really like that cholesterol piece is linked to animal?
1,000%. Like there's zero question about that. That's a number. You're not going to get plants do not contain dietary cholesterol.
Okay.
And
there are different kinds of cholesterol, right? Like
right. Well, your body, everybody's body responds a little differently once it's in there. But yes, animal products contain cholesterol, dietary cholesterol, and plants do not. So we can just eliminate that altogether. Now, not to mention all the other things that come along with meat and dairy and eggs, the hormones and the antibiotics and all the toxins and all the things that are now concentrated in that animal because they're in these awful conditions, getting fed crap, and then we're absorbing that into our bodies. So there's so many. And then watching, and what I also recommend is watching.
This is very motivational in my curiosity, by the way.
The best of the documentaries. I say watch a documentary every week, because there are that many out there that really, really start to open your eyes. And starting with the ones that are easier to watch, like What the Health, where it's like, okay, what are your interests? What the Health, game changers. You want to, those of us who want to be fit and healthy and active into old age. And so these are all really great ways to ingest the information. And then they also have great tips along the way. But doing the 22 Reboot program, you're going to get a little video each day. It's made for busy people. It's not a lot of time. It's not a big investment. And it's a very powerful program.
Awesome. Well, that's exciting. I was going to ask about that later, and I had intentionally not asked about it because I wanted to ask you on the podcast. So that was a perfect answer there. And, I think you're so right. It's the mindset coupled with the willingness and the curiosity. Like hearing you talk about the link to heart issues and the impact, and okay, I'm eating a healthy chicken, but it's coming from this really toxic stream of, water probably. That makes me more willing, right? And if I'm not in the conversation, if I'm not exposed to that, I'm eating the chicken and I'm enjoying it and I think I'm doing a good thing for myself. So anytime we can call that out and say to people, you have choices about how this interacts with you, how you're going to feel later, and how your body's going to respond in 10, 15, 20, 30 years, because this skeleton and all the things on it, we have things to do. We have a lot of places to go. I want to be able to get down on the floor and play with my grandchildren if, we're given some. Because I think we should always be growing. And if my body can't handle it, I got nothing. Right.
You look at the blue zones, right? And if you look traditionally and what those blue zones are eating, it's almost all plants.
And also in the blue zones, it's a different community lifestyle, right? We have different connections. So it's not just about the food we put in our body, but and the mindset that we keep, but the energy and the community that we share. So who have been some people in your life that have enhanced your energy, whether they were mentors or just guides? Who's helped you figure out how to use this gift and to share this message that you have?
Oh gosh, so many people. Oh my goodness. And I'm so glad you mentioned Dr. Blundo, because I don't think back to those days very often. And I tend to kind of let my memory just slide. I don't think backward very often, except like doing a podcast and telling my story. But yeah, it's all the people along the way, and I also have my parents to thank, because I had two parents that were willing to support and allow me to do me at a very young age, instead of trying to control every decision.
Yep.
When I said I'm not going to eat animals, they thought it would be a phase. And they let me eat the sides. They didn't try to force me. And when it became very clear very fast that was, very much embedded in who I was, they loved on me for that. And I am so grateful, because I know that a lot of people do not have that kind of love and support from an early age. So that, and then now, and they've all followed suit. And now my dad, who's also a Buddhist. So I learned a lot of meditation from him, and he now teaches death row inmates how to meditate as a volunteer job. So yeah, my dad's an amazing human. My mom's a cancer survivor. She has she ran a preschool for 40 years.
Bless her.
Yeah, I know.
Wow, that is a lot of love and giving.
maybe hence why I do not have children and don't have them. But it was my first job in high school. Yeah. But she is just an extraordinary human being as well. And I've got now a sister with 3 young children, all of whom are vegan as well. And so they're running around trying to save the world. And it's really between that and just, I think doing these podcasts, and I started my first podcast several years ago. For an introvert, I think podcasting is a really great way to connect with people as well, Yep.
And you're so right, because it's a different level of energy, and you still get the same result, right? Like, you don't have to go out and do the thing and entertain all the people and schmooze.
Yeah.
And I find that what I want now, and maybe it's a post-COVID thing, maybe it's just part of my own evolution, but I don't want people to just say, "Hey, how you doing?" I want them to ask me a question about me, right? Because I want to know about you and your things and what makes you happy today. We've got to move beyond just the superficial stuff, right? And that's exhausting sometimes. So I do love this venue, this forum, if you will, because, well, I get to ask all the things.
Yes. And also, one other thing that I just thought of is just this new phase. I mean, I'm always on this path of growth, right? And just looking at the world differently. And at this point in my life, how I like to look at everybody around me, every person I encounter, as a form of a teacher, right? And a reflection of myself. And so what does my feeling or reaction to this person, if that's a trigger for me, what's that about? Like, let me look at me and say thank you for whatever you've done that might be, making me want to like strangle you.
Yep. Thank you for this frustration.
Yes. and what's that about? And when we can get to that place, and I like to talk about it as kind of playing life like a game. It becomes a game when we stop giving our power away and saying that person did me wrong, that person is an asshole, whatever, when we can just stop all that, stop the judgment, stop the assumptions, the best we can. We're human. Like it's not going to happen totally, but it all comes down to really moving through the world from a more conscious place and learning from everything.
And I think you're right. Every encounter is a healing encounter when we see it as such. And if we don't, we're going to keep hitting that encounter again and again and again. And we're going to say, oh, life is so tough on me, and boo-hoo, wah-wah, and play the victim. And my second thought from there is it makes me think of Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements. Shortest, happiest little book. I probably read it once a year, but it's about that, no judgment, no assumptions, don't gossip, don't take anything personally, because it's not about you. Unless you make it about you and say, how do I step out of this and deflect from the energy? How do I confront it in a way that doesn't hurt me? And how do I not have to do this again and again and again? Because that's the suffering, Yeah. So real quickly, if you can, tease my curiosity with the Temple of the Way of Light.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's a short way to talk about it because I imagine it's really intense, but from an outsider looking in, I would just love a little insider perspective.
Yeah, well, it came to me, and I never really had felt called to do ayahuasca. I had done some psychedelics previously, but ayahuasca, I was like, oof, that sounds awful. Like people get sick and they're throwing up. I don't want to throw up. Like it.
Right.
So I didn't really have any plans to do that one until last spring. And I went down the rabbit hole of burnout. Really had been something I had kind of been pushing off for quite a while, and it hit me hard. And I knew there was something in me that said, it's time. Like
too much.
You
were listening to the truth. The truth in you, that sexy truth of yours, was saying, we need help, right? Or we need something. We need a shift.
We need something. And that's what I felt called to do. And I said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And that's kind of the person I've always been. And I like that part about myself, though it can get me in trouble sometimes. But I said, here we go. Let's do this. Let me find the spot. And this spot, the Temple of the Way of Light, is recommended by Gabor Mate. For those of the listeners that might not know Gabor Mate, he's one of the world's leading trauma healers, psychologists. He's incredible. Like, wow, look him up, read his books. Yeah. He is insanely amazing. And what happened to him is he actually went down to this spot to be a facilitator. And in one of the ceremonies, the shaman said, they kicked him out. And they said, you've got some energy, some dark energy that needs to be worked through before you can help other people. And he talked.
I did hear this story on the Tim Ferriss podcast.
Yes, he told it on Tim Ferriss and on Rich Roll as well.
Okay.
And so they worked with him individually. And I said, well, if Gabor Mate recommends this spot, this is the spot I want to go to. So we did a whole dieta leading up to it. That's no spicy foods, no oils, no alcohol, certainly cannabis. We're clearing the energy. And heading down to really a very remote part of Peru, outside of Iquitos, and going for 6 nights. It was 11 nights, and 6 of those nights were ayahuasca ceremonies. So and they have a very clear process for how to set this up for you to have maximum. I don't want to say results, but for you to have the best experience you could possibly have, right? The facilitators were amazing. There was 5 shaman, 20 people, and it was actually happened to be a group of mostly psychologists and social workers and therapists.
Awesome.
That was originally what they had created this group for, though they did open it up to other people. So, we had group sessions, we had the ceremonies, which were designed to, each night you set a very clear intention, you clear your energy. There was no technology allowed, no phones, no computers, none of that. And you build a relationship with the plant medicine and surrender into whatever is going to happen each night. And every night was very different. And for me, I'll just give an example.
Yeah.
And I was very sick. I apparently had a lot to clear because I was very sick pretty much every night.
Is that an indicator of how much withheld trauma?
Blockages, it can be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the throwing up and they purging can be from throwing up. It can be crying. It can be going out the other end. It can be doing it all at once,
Any
which
way out.
certainly happened one of the nights. They call it the Egyptian because it's like, pew, pew, pew.
Oh gosh. I mean, and you have to be able to laugh a little bit at it. At this point, right? Like it's just go for it. All right. So you're cleansing out. Keep going.
And yeah, no, I want to share one of the most poignant moments of that was, as a teenager, I had two very loving parents. A lot of the other people in the group, had parents who beat them or left them. And although my parents had troubles and they got divorced and, I had some household drama, they were very loving to me. And I knew they loved me. Yeah. And so my question was, and my intention for one of the ceremonies was, why did I make really poor choices for myself in high school? And college. And that means dating abusive boyfriends. It means choosing to be an exotic dancer for 4 years in the prime of when you're supposed to be, exploring your sexuality with other college students your age. Why did I do these things? Drugs, alcohol, all of this, when I really had every tool to make healthier choices. I just didn't understand. And I really felt the need to know. And what happens during the ceremonies, once the medicine kicks in, the shaman go around and they come in front of you one at a time and sing to you. And they're called ikaros. So it's this kind of very guttural, interesting, vibrational singing. And what it does is it connects with the medicine within you and opens up energies and kind of activates it. And what happened was when one of these shamans started singing, I became my mother. And I don't know how to explain it because it's not like I looked down and I looked like my, I knew I was my mother. And I experienced her trauma from when she was a child. And she had a very traumatic childhood with alcoholic parents and all sorts of really traumatic events in her childhood. And just
you're making me want to purge from my eyes. That's so intense.
And I wept. I mean, I felt it. And I wept like I don't think I've ever wept before as her, and releasing this trauma as her, because it was trauma that I had inherited. It was trauma that I was carrying without knowing it. And in that release of that, I was also, and this is what they say, able to help her release. And I still think
it's energy, right?
It's energy is energy. Everything's energy, and it's all connected. And this space and in this time that we think we live in, that's all an illusion. We're all connected. So that was just to give you an idea of just one of the powerful moments. There were times when I was off into other dimensions that was so uncomfortable. There was times that nothing happened at the beginning. And I said, well, give me seconds. And nothing happened again. And then I realized that I was trying to control what was happening in that ceremony. And as soon as I said, oh, you know what? This is silly. I'm in a beautiful space. I'm surrounded here, like feeling the energy. I don't need to have an experience. At that moment, the medicine like skyrocketed me into other dimensions for 7 hours in very uncomfortable ways that, I mean, it's not a fun experience. I do not call it a fun experience. Any of it. Not one night was fun. Powerful. Absolutely. Learning to find my worth in my being rather than my doing. That was invaluable. Giving up control over things that I didn't have control over. The attachment to outcomes that we don't have control over and we think we want to hold on to. That's suffering. So all of these pieces were lessons that I was able to take away from the actual experience and from the masterful facilitation and group, and from the group, that community of people that were so close to by the end, that we're all on a WhatsApp chat and we all stay in touch. It was,
yeah, that's a very connecting experience. I mean, holy cow.
yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing all of that. I very much appreciate it. And what I want to like share with our listeners right now is that process that you're talking about. While I'm not suggesting anyone try this with ayahuasca, I'm absolutely not suggesting that. But the thought process of the releasing and the giving in, and then just giving yourself the experience to feel, we can all benefit from that at any time of the day, anywhere that you are. And we don't need ayahuasca to start being creative and curious about, you know, for us with our parents, right? They were just people doing the best damn jobs they could, right? And we didn't know anything about them, about their lives before us. But for me as an adult to say, I wonder what it was like for my mom to go through my childhood experience. I wonder what it was like for my dad to have to move through XYZ, but to just be the observer there, right? To just say, I wonder what it could have been like for them, because they have their story too, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm sure ayahuasca compounds it in a whole different way. I can't even say that, but just taking the moment to say, I wonder what that person must have been thinking, feeling, going through, etc., helps us to disconnect a little bit, right? And just say, well, they're doing their thing, and now I get to do mine.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head there too, about getting better at feeling. And that was one of the books that we were recommended to read before we went, was a book called The Presence Process by Michael Brown. And his whole part of his thing is the goal is not to feel better. The goal is to get better at feeling. And that's something that I tell myself now every day. And when I got back from Peru and kind of integrated back in the first 2 weeks, which was a process, right? And
Gosh,
integration can take weeks. It can take months. It can take years to integrate these ceremonies.
Meaning cognitively, neurologically, right? Like
feeling,
you go back to life
energy.
and it's day to day and you're still so big or so much. And
yeah, and it's one of the things that, you know, people talk about too, like, oh, well, my spouse went and then he came back and he was great for a few months and then right back to where he was, right? So there's ways to get support that you need to carry that and to continue to grow into so that you don't fall back into the same old patterns. Now, when I came back 2 weeks later, I had one of the worst traumas of my life. Was my cat, Bob, fell off the balcony. Yeah, he represented to me peace. He represented curiosity. He was the most amazing cat who had found me 8 months prior out on the street, ran up to me in the middle of a thunderstorm and said, "You're my person." Like, he looked up at me and said, "You are my person." And I said, "Do you want to come inside?" And he said yes. And
he asked the right person.
He did. And he was just an extraordinary being. And I had come back and really was kind of relying on him still, something outside myself, Bob and my Chihuahua, to really feel connected with peace. And so I will say to this day, and what changed though, when he died, and he fell off the balcony in front of me and died in my arms. And I handled that very differently than I would have. My heart was so open. Your heart is so open after that ayahuasca experience. It's a very heart opening experience. So I was extra vulnerable. I felt that, like, I can't even describe the pain. And I let myself have it. I didn't try to run from it. I didn't try to hide or numb myself or drink or, whatever. I let myself feel it and cried and cried and cried and connected with people instead of, taking myself out of the game. Instead of, which is my normal reaction.
The old normal.
The old normal.
That's the old normal. This is the new normal. Yeah. One of the mantras I work with a lot with my people is, this is not my new way of being. and just constantly reiterating that we're in a new thinking space. And I really love that Bob showed up when he knew that when you got home, you would need a grounding source, an old soul to kind of to put some of the energy in and bounce some of it back, it sounds like. Well, thank you, Bob, for your service and your generosity and love. You were right on time.
I call him my sensei, Bob. He really was such a teacher. And the first ounce of where I felt a little relief from that suffering for myself was when my good friend, I was talking to him on the phone, and he said to me, it really sounds like Bob earned his ascension. And it was those words that just gave me this little bit of relief. And I said, he really did.
Yeah.
I don't understand, I don't understand why he had to go. He was young, but he earned his ascension. He earned it.
Well, you know what? Reincarnation or otherwise, that soul of his is serving somewhere else right now, yes. Right? Creating good energy somewhere else. And we have to believe there are creatures around the world feeling and benefiting from Bob.
Yes. Can I share one more little thing about that?
I would love it.
Yeah. So I don't know how open your listeners are to this kind of thing, but somebody had recommended a channel, a person who does channeling. And so I called on her and I said, here's the things that I'd love to connect with. I don't know if you do animals, but I would love to connect with Bob. Here's a picture. And when she said Bob was the first to show up to that channeling session. And this is excited. This is the incredible part. She said, and so we've got 2 other cats that are here at the house. And I don't talk, these are my mother's cats. I don't talk about them on social media. I don't really put them out there.
Okay.
She goes, Bob is around and he's going to stick around about 3 months as you kind of grieve. And she goes, and he's communicating with somebody in your house. And she said, he's saying something about a Louis or a Louie. And sure enough, one of my mom's cats' names is Louie. And he had been acting like so un-Louie-like. They're not very playful. My cat was so playful. He had been running around because Bob used to like antagonize them and try to and get them to play. And he had been really, it was as if Bob was still there. And she named him by name.
That's incredible.
I know.
And you asked the question, my listeners, if they aren't already curious and interested in this stuff, they could be, they should be, they might be. And, I believe that if we're not having the conversation, there's no invitation. And there are so many people grieving and in this, there's like stages of grief, there's legitimacy to them, right? Sure. But every human experience is unique and different. And the way I grieve and the way you grieve are not the same, right? So if someone out there lost their cat, dog, bird, chinchilla, whatever, it's an opportunity to just try to connect, right? Like just to say, don't forget, we are just energy in a body and we are here and we will move and we will cycle through and we will come back in some kind of form. I mean, anything that we can say to people that says you have choices, you have options about how you grieve, about how you mourn, and then to reflect back and say, because if you don't find your right way to grieve, that trauma becomes inherent, it becomes biological, it becomes part of, if you have children, part of their story and experience, right? To pull it all back together. And it's so important that we understand, you said your time in Peru was not fun, but it was powerful. And we are so quickly accustomed to, I don't want to do it if it's not fun. But we have to do some things and we can make it fun. And the fun comes from, what is my goal? What is my desired outcome? Can I take incremental steps to get there and celebrate along the way? Purging and throwing up in Peru does not sound like fun. Having those emotional, intense experiences does not sound like fun. But coming out of it and the version of Ella that comes out of it, the healthier, happier, more capable, willing to feel, she's happy, she's having more fun. And we have to take the time to invest in ourselves, right? And when we use the word invest, people automatically think like dollar signs and stuff. That's that's so not even the big conversation. Money is a renewable resource. Time and energy, they are not, right? So I say we have to invest this time and do the hard things. We have to choose our hard, because if we don't, we'll keep encountering and encountering and encountering the same hell and suffering, which throws off our lifestyle, throws off our sleep, throws off our mindset, of all the things. So I'm going to circle it back. The next thing I was going to talk about was the 22 reboot. So I'd love for you to just once again tell everyone about that. Tell us how to find it. And then I just have one more question, and I'm going to send everybody off to go be vegetarian, vegan, plant-based, flexitarian curious.
There you go. Yes, 22 reboot is
and sexy curious. We have
and
to put
sexy
that
curious. I like that. Sexy curious. I
in.
like that. Yeah, it's 22 reboot is, my signature program now. It's a 22-day transformation system. You go through 22 days of learning how to disrupt your harmful habits and adopt healthy new ones, and those around the 4 pillars of holistic health. And I give tons of tools and tons of resources along the way. You get a 5-minute video each day sent to your inbox that really helps you not only with the practical tools, but also making some really powerful shifts along the way in terms of your mindset. It's a fabulous program, and it's in line also with my plant empowered coaching program, which is kind of the next level, next step after that.
And that's all at ellamajors.com.
Yeah, you can go to ellamajors.com. That's got my podcast on there. It's also got the link to 22 Reboot, and you can go to 22reboot.com. That's 22reboot.com.
Awesome. And it's Ella Majors, Magers, not Majors, like I accidentally posted. Brain fart, but hey, what are you going to do?
Yeah. That's how it sounds.
That's how it sounds.
Totally
So, okay, I want to respect your time and let you go be fabulous. But I have to know, on your billboard, what does it say? If you could say anything you want to anybody out in the world. It's my favorite Tim Ferriss question, and I love to close with it too. So you have the opportunity to put something. You've already marketed 22 Reboot. That's on billboards across the world, right? What does Ella want to say to the world on her billboard?
I'm gonna have to go with love animals, don't eat them.
I think that's perfect. I think it's absolutely perfect. And every time I think of you and animals, I think of you and that sweet hog or pig that you have associated with your hugs. Is it Hugs and Kisses?
It's Hogs and Kisses Farm
Hogs
Sanctuary.
and Kisses.
Yeah, look that up too, you guys. We've got these great pigs, and yeah, that's where my heart is. I spent a lot of time up there in Virginia with these animals that traditionally end up on plates that act just like dogs. I mean, you should see these 700-pound animals like running over and then laying down and turning their belly up so you can rub their bellies. We've got a bed and breakfast. You can come visit.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, you should.
Oh, that is so cool.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful on 37 acres in the Blue Ridge or in the Appalachian Mountains. It's gorgeous.
Okay. Can you do retreats there?
That's what that's kind of my next exciting, like, I've got 2 things. I want to do a vegan RV trip around America and wrap
I love this
as a billboard. So I will have to give a little more thought, because the one thing I don't like about the love animals, don't eat them. It's not very, it's kind of telling people what to do. And I don't, that's not very empowering. So I might have to think.
But you got to remember, it's a billboard, so you only have that.
I know.
There's not a lot of room for interpretation. So I think it's great, because what I will say, in my way of growing, I'm learning to try to be more direct and not nice about it and hope they pick it up. You feel so strongly about this that I think it's appropriate. Love animals, don't eat them. Period. End of story. No questions asked. So I think it's perfect. And I think it speaks to your drive and your passion. And I, for one, am inspired. I mean, I'm so appreciative. You just were such a piece of my college experience in that way. And I don't think about it all that time often, but when I do think of you, and it means the world to come back and connect and to be able to have this conversation and to share it with people, because any way that you, me, your neighbors, any way that we can heighten our light, expand our energy just a little bit in a way of helping ourselves and helping others, that's how we change the world, right? And if your mission is the animals or the environment or, I don't know, fashion, whatever it is, just do it in a way that's authentic, because that is the sexiest damn thing that you can do. And I very much applaud you for being proud and confident and sexy and intelligent and curious and doing it all with compassion and sharing it with us. So folks, check her out, ellamajors.com. She is an absolute delight. And if anyone is interested in this whole vegan, vegetarian, whatever curious stuff, let me know what you come up with, because I'm interested and I'm following along to rise and thrive with Ella Majors, and you should too. So Ella, thank you, my beautiful friend. I am so inspired and impressed by you, and I truly wish you all the luck as you go forward changing the world, one happy, beautiful animal and human at a time.
Oh, Michaela, this has meant so much to me to be able to connect with you as well. And you're doing amazing work. Keep it up. Thank you. Thank you.
Until next time, friends, this is And All the Things. And that's a wrap on another episode of And All the Things. If you enjoyed today's show, please like and follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. If you really liked it, please go ahead and rate it. Then think about who in your life might also need to hear it and any of the other episodes we have shared. Then share it with them. When you find something meaningful, something valuable, you've got to share it and pay it forward to those you care for. Thanks for joining us, and follow along on Instagram at MyJoyCoach to see more of me, your host, Michaela Birdyshaw. And as always, make it a great day.